Today, the Let's Get Lit team is bringing you a bonus video about covers that we love, that are eye-catching, and things that we love and hate about covers.
I'm going to share some of our most eye-catching covers. Liz, do you want to read?
It's a new book, but this cover I love.
Have you read that?
I have not.
Okay.
No, it's the simplicity. It's very eye-catching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Terry Blackstock has a series. Fascinating book cover for all three of these books. They connect. The title is If I Run, If I'm Found, and If I Live. So when you put the three together, you have the picture, very dramatic picture of a young woman who is basically running for her life.
I just have a couple that I wanted to show off. Some of my favorite covers in general come from the 80s and 70s and 80s, where for this author, Philip K. Dick, they would put out, they would commission artists to do drawings that represented the contents of the book, which aren't always accurate. And this is somewhat accurate. I don't think Abraham Lincoln appears in this volume, but his head has been used to got a lot of character, and they're really good stories too.
That like 80s trend is like coming back.
Yeah.
And I've seen some where I think it's My Best Friend's Exorcist.
Yes.
Is set up like a VHS tape, like on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen King's newest book.
His name.
This is a great one. This was a great trend for him when they did the paperback stuff in the 80s, early 90s. I have a lot of emphasis on the author's name and the title, but they also have the really great illustrative background. I love the font type that they used for that series. That's been copied by the Stranger Things ilk. Pretty timeless for me. They don't just look like 80s, they look like really good freaking covers.
I feel like you look at it and you know you're getting a horror.
Yeah, it's suggestive, but it doesn't overly explain.
It's not cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of it was an influence on the Goosebumps books covers, honestly. Like, there's a lot of that style that carried over to that series.
I was going to say, the Goosebumps were some of mine.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, I was like, these covers are so cool. And, of course, they've rechanged the covers, 3 times since. I'm on the hunt for all the original covers. Middle Game by Seanan McGuire has a really interesting cover. It's all black, and there's a white wax hand on the cover with, it's a candle, and it's, like, dripping down.
Yes.
It's just so, like, weird, but it's also just that contrast between that black and the white. And you're just like, what is this? But it's an intriguing book overall, too. It took a good amount of brain power. I read it to understand what was going on, but it was a good book.
LA Confidential is one of my favorite books. This is the first edition that I acquired. I don't have many first editions in my collection, but this is one of them. This is a book that I do have in my home cover out, which is not always the easiest to do with a large book collection, but it has, you get pretty much a good idea of what the book contains, like noir, Hollywood, but this was actually written in the 90s. The book has been repurposed, reissued a few times, and they've never got it right, apart from this edition. Mysterious Press has a really cool logo on the spine also, and it kind of looks like a horror font, but it's not. This is like an urban noir set in the 50s. I think we can all agree that the editions of books that they put out that are supposed to be movie tie-ins that feature the movie art are the worst thing in the world.
No one wants them, and they still do it. Who are they making them for? I want to know. I want to have a conversation.
That's the only time I encourage burning books.
I don't know if I've ever seen a good movie book cover.
The only exception I can think of, and this is kind of like a deep cut, but there's a movie called The Man Who Fell to Earth from the 70s, stars David Bowie. And it's based on a book. And then they repurposed the artwork for the film for the paperback cover, and it looks fantastic because they just use a portion of it, which is like a profile shot of David Bowie. It's actually from an album cover he did. So it's like 3 different things mashed up to make a really good paperback cover. And that's the only one in history that I could think of.
Also, the worst is if you are a book collector and you're collecting a series and they decide halfway through the series that they're changing the covers.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Just why? Then they don't match on the bookshelf and.
Danny Patrick has a new book out, and it's called The Crushing Depths. And the cover is so, I mean, when you look at it, it's like, wow, I gotta read that book. You have the silhouette of a woman's face, and in the background you have like the sun is breaking through clouds. And toward the bottom of the book, you have ocean is stirred up, and you have like a little
Vortex?
Okay, like a vortex.
Whirlpool, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a tornado.
Yeah.
So at the bottom of the book, you have the tornado, and then you have the clouds on a silhouette, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, what is that book about? Because you have such a contrast between the two. So I thought the cover of that book was awesome.
I'm very drawn to books that have like an ocean on the cover, the ocean at the end of the lane, the deep. It's not an ocean, but the light between, the light between oceans, but then there's all the light we cannot see. It's that very blue.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you would line those books up though, I would not be able to choose like which one was probably which, but it's definitely something that I've seen that I'm drawn to. In my collection at home, I somehow have infinitely more blue books than any other books.
Wow. Well, Neil Gaiman's book, The Graveyard Book,
It's blue.
it's blue.
Not
Ocean.
beach.
No.
I don't want to see the beach on it. Then I can only think about sand in places that it should not be, and it never leaves. And you somehow bring it home with you, and it's just not a good time. I'm not a fan of the sand.
Jaws is another example of a great
Oh, the
ocean.
best.
Yeah.
It
Century
is the best.
cover.
Mhm.
Shauna McGuire writes under the name Mira Grant as well, and there's Into the Drowning Deep. Now it's a black cover in the ocean, but it has blood, like coming up through the water,
Mhm.
and that's another one that's eye-catching. It's a mermaid horror book, so.
You know, standard mermaid horror.
You know, that's just the genre I seek out a lot. Mermaid.
A cover I remember from years and years and years ago was The Valley of the Dolls.
Oh,
That was a neat cover. I mean, I can still see that cover.
Do you want to show your last one?
This is a more recent one. I've shown some old stuff, but this is a really cool modern book cover called Blitz. The Nazis were controlled by amphetamines and kept alive and primed to wreak destruction upon the world. And the mechanism that allowed that to happen, and has this very, the print by color is off center. It makes you feel like you're under the influence, sort of. And I won this book through a contest, and that's one of the few that books I have that are actually new in my collection, because I read it through the library and then I won it. So, but I have it covered out in my home also.
You don't see a lot of yellow covers.
No. It's kind of off-putting, honestly. Like if you were to stare at it for a while, it's kind of like, get it out of my face.
It's
but,
not like a happy yellow. It's
No.
a very,
warning.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I'm sure was a choice.
Yeah. Plus you got Hitler's head on there, and who wants to see
I like how you know exactly based off that haircut too,
Yeah.
exactly who it is.
Yeah.
It's like either you have the haircut or the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Because you never see anybody with that type of haircut.
No.
No one you want to meet.
No. No.
I will mention one. I mean, the first one we talked about, The Lost Castle. The cover of that book is so cool.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a tree-lined driveway, and it's going up to the gate. But it gives the feeling like, okay, I got to see this castle. And as you're looking at the book, you're thinking, I can't get close enough to it. Where is it? And you just know that the clock castle is behind that gate. But because that cover of the book is drawing us, like, open it up, open the gate up, I want to see it, I want to see it. So it does draw you to that book.
Do you think that you are sometimes, despite the warning, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, drawn to books based on their artwork?
That'll draw me to look.
I'm a cover
Yeah.
snob through and through.
Yeah, that draws me. I look at a cover and it's like, makes me want to read it.
I mean, you don't judge a book by its cover, but that cover is the first thing that you're seeing whether or not you want to read it.
Yes.
Right.
The synopsis, you have to go inside to find that most of the time. Like, that's the selling point right there.
And some authors I think do it well and some do not.
Right.
Well, most authors don't have a say.
Yeah.
They don't have a
Well,
say
that's
in
true.
it.
You're right.
That would be my fear, that I would become an author and they would give me an ugly cover. Be like, no, why would you do this to me?
And have you ever opened up a book and loved the cover and you just couldn't stand the book?
Oh, yes.
It's kind of like, ew.
Yeah, you get into it and you're like, oh, this is terrible. Yes. I'm going to throw one more out. The original cover of Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk is an optical illusion. When you're looking at it one way, it's a beautiful woman, and when you turn it up the other way, it's like an old hag.
Oh, really?
But they since have changed the covers. But I think it was because it was too simple and not as eye-catching. But I thought it was so neat. I didn't even realize till like a year of owning the book that it was an optical illusion.
His covers are neat.
Yeah, I got his newest one. It's hot pink and yellow, so
I think that's it.
I think so.
I think so.
Thank you.
All right, well, we hope you've liked this episode, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for Let's Get Lit. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. If you have any questions, suggestions, or want recommendations, please contact us either in the comments section, by giving us a call, or by emailing us at letsgetlit@AlleghenyCountyLibrary.info.